So, Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 25, Text 27. And this verse says, My dear lotus-eyed, who are those 11 strong bodyguards with you? And who are those 10 specific servants? Who are those women following the 10 servants? And who is the snake that is preceding you? Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The 10 strong servants of the mind are the 5 working senses and the 5 knowledge gathering senses. All these 10 senses work under the aegis of the mind. The mind and the 10 senses combine to become 11 strong bodyguards. The hundreds of women under the jurisdiction of the senses are addressed here as lalana. The mind works under the intelligence, and under the mind are the 10 senses, and under the 10 senses are the innumerable desires to be fulfilled. All these, however, depend on the vital life force, which is here represented by a snake. As long as the vital life force is there, the mind works. And under the mind, the senses work. And the senses give rise to so many material desires. Actually, the living entity, known as Puranjana, is embarrassed by so much paraphernalia. All this paraphernalia simply constitutes different sources of anxiety. But one who is surrendered unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead and who leaves all business to Him is freed from such anxieties. Therefore, Prahlad Maharaja advises a person who has taken to the materialistic way of life, which is never permanent but always temporary, to take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and leave aside all his so-called responsibilities in order to get free from all anxieties. Well, there it is. The formula to get free from all anxieties. Take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and leave aside all his so-called responsibilities in order to get free from all anxieties. Not many people are going to do that. They don't want to give up their so-called responsibilities. Okay, text number 28. My dear beautiful girl, you are exactly like the goddess of fortune, or the wife of Lord Shiva, or the goddess of learning, the wife of Lord Buddha, Brahma. Although you must be one of them, I see that you are loitering in this forest. Indeed, you are as silent as the great sages. Is it that you are searching after your own husband? Whoever your husband may be, simply by understanding that you are so faithful to him, he will come to possess all opulences. I think you must be the goddess of fortune, but I do not see the lotus flower in your hand. Therefore, I'm asking you where you have thrown that lotus. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Everyone thinks that his intelligence is perfect. Sometimes one employs his intelligence in the worship of Uma, the wife of Lord Shiva, in order to obtain a beautiful wife. Sometimes when one wants to become as learned as Lord Brahma, he employs his intelligence in the worship of the goddess of learning, Saraswati. Sometimes, when one wishes to become as opulent as Lord Vishnu, he worships the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi. In this verse, all these inquiries are made by King Puranjana, the living entity who is bewildered and does not know how to employ his intelligence. Intelligence should be employed in the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As soon as one uses his intelligence in this way, the goddess of fortune automatically becomes favorable to him. The goddess of fortune, Lakshmi, never remains without her husband, Lord Vishnu. Consequently, when one worships Lord Vishnu, he automatically obtains the favor of the goddess of fortune. Okay, well, that eliminates the people who worship Lakshmi and avoid worshiping Krishna. One should not, like Ravana, worship the goddess of fortune alone. Okay, for she cannot remain long without her husband. Thus, her other name is Chanchala, or restless. In this verse, it is clear that Puranjana is representing our intelligence while he is talking with the girl. He not only appreciated the shyness of the girl, but actually became more and more attracted by that shyness. He was actually thinking of becoming her husband and consequently was asking her whether she was thinking of her prospective husband or whether she was married. This is an example of Boga Icha, the desire for enjoyment. One who is attracted by such desires becomes conditioned in this material world, and one who is not so attracted attains liberation. King Puranjana was appreciating the beauty of the girl as if she were the goddess of fortune. But at the same time, he was careful to understand that the goddess of fortune cannot be enjoyed by anyone except Lord Vishnu. Since he doubted whether the girl was the goddess of fortune, he inquired about the lotus flower she was not holding. The material world is also the goddess of fortune because the material energy works under the direction of Lord Vishnu. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, Maya Dakshena Prakriti Suyatesa Characharam. The material world cannot be enjoyed by any living entity. If one so desires to enjoy it, he immediately becomes a demon like Ravana, Hiranyakashipu, or Kamsa. Because Ravana wanted to enjoy the goddess of fortune, Sita Devi, he was vanquished with all his family, wealth, and opulence. One can, however, enjoy that Maya bestowed upon the living entity. One can, however, enjoy that Maya bestowed upon the living entity by Lord Vishnu. The satisfaction of one's senses and desires means enjoying Maya, not the goddess of fortune. Let me think about that a second. The material world cannot be enjoyed by any living entity. If one so desires to enjoy it, he immediately becomes a demon like Ravana, Hiranyakashipu, or Kamsa. Because Ravana wanted to enjoy the goddess of fortune, Sita Devi, he was vanquished, meaning defeated, with all his family, wealth, and opulence. One can, however, enjoy that Maya bestowed upon the living entity by Lord Vishnu.
Is that Yoga Maya?
The satisfaction of one's senses and desires means enjoying Maya, not the goddess of fortune. I'm not sure. Let me read that again. Because Ravana wanted to enjoy the goddess of fortune, Sita Devi, he was vanquished with all his family wealth and opulence. Okay. One can, however, enjoy that Maya bestowed upon the living entity by Lord Vishnu. The satisfaction of one's senses and desires means enjoying Maya, not the goddess of fortune.
So in one case, it's not with the association of Lord Vishnu. Like Ravana, what he tried to do was to take Sita Devi away from Lord Rama.
Right.
Whereas the last part of the paragraph is saying that if we accept that whatever is bestowed upon us while worshipping Lord Vishnu, that satisfaction of the senses only by Vishnu's mercy, that is a bona fide thing, because then we're not thinking of enjoying independent of the Lord. Is that the interpretation? One can, however, enjoy.
Well, I think the main statement here is the satisfaction of one's senses and desires means enjoying Maya, not the goddess of fortune. So the goddess of fortune is Sita Devi, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when we want to try and enjoy Sita Devi, we are defeated,
Correct.
like Ravana. But one can enjoy that Maya bestowed upon the living entity by Lord Vishnu. The satisfaction of one's senses and desires means enjoying Maya, not the goddess of fortune. Okay.
So let's say if we are in Krishna consciousness and there is a satisfaction of the senses and the heart by the devotional service, is that what Prabhupada is referring to, the satisfaction of one's senses and desires as bestowed upon by the living entity by Lord Vishnu?
Well, the main point, it's always going to come down to this, that the purpose of spiritual life is to surrender to Lord Krishna completely. And if one surrenders completely to Lord Krishna, then Maya Dakshina Prakriti Sirte Sacharacharam, immediately, Lord, the goddess of the goddess of fortune will bless the devotee. Because Ravana wanted to enjoy the goddess of fortune and Sita Devi, he was vanquished with all his family, wealth, and opulence. One can, however, enjoy that Maya bestowed upon the living entity by Lord Vishnu. The satisfaction of one's senses and desires means enjoying Maya, not the goddess of fortune. Okay, so the important statement here is King Puranjan was appreciating the beauty of the girl as if she were the goddess of fortune. But at the same time, he was careful to understand that the goddess of fortune cannot be enjoyed by anyone except Lord Vishnu. Since he doubted whether the girl was the goddess of fortune, he inquired about the lotus flower she was not holding. The material world is also the goddess of fortune because the material energy works under the direction of Lord Vishnu, as stated in Bhagavad Gita, Maya Dakshena Pakriti Suyate Sacharacharam. The material world cannot be enjoyed by any living entity. Okay, that's the main statement right there.
Mm.
If one so desires to enjoy it, he immediately becomes a demon like Ravana, Hiranyakashipu, or Kamsa. Because Ravana wanted to enjoy the goddess of fortune, Sita Devi, he was vanquished with all his family wealth and opulence. One can, however, enjoy that Maya bestowed upon the living entity by Lord Vishnu. The satisfaction of one's senses and desires means enjoying Maya, not the goddess of fortune. Okay, so if we engage in devotional service, as opposed to wanting to control uh, everything, rather to surrender to Krishna, then one is blessed by the goddess of fortune. But if we want to usurp the goddess of fortune for one's own sense gratification, one becomes a demon and is defeated, like Ravana. So, the goddess of fortune, Sita Devi, as long as she's under the protection of her husband, Krishna, uh, and one does not try to usurp her, then one can get all kinds of wealth and opulence to be used in the service of Krishna. So one can, however, enjoy that Maya bestowed upon the living entity by Lord Vishnu. The satisfaction of one's senses and desires means enjoying Maya, not the goddess of fortune. Okay, so that's our takeaway. Uh, Ravana wanted to enjoy the goddess of fortune, Sita Devi. He was defeated with his family, wealth, and opulence. On the other hand, one can, however, enjoy that Maya bestowed upon the living entity by Lord Vishnu. The satisfaction of one's senses and desires means enjoying Maya, not the goddess of fortune, Sita Devi. Okay, so we should, to make it simple, we should worship Lord Vishnu.
Correct.
And then we will not have any problems. As soon as we want to uh, have control of Sita Devi, just like Ravana wanted to enjoy Sita Devi, is a big problem and will be defeated completely. Well, that's normal. If you usurp or kidnap a woman, the wife of someone, you're going to get into trouble. Now, in this case, it's not just an ordinary woman. Ravana tried to kidnap Sita Devi. She's the goddess of fortune, thinking that he would become very powerful and wealthy and everything. But because it was Sita Devi, the goddess of fortune, all his family, wealth, and opulence were destroyed. On the other hand, one can, however, enjoy Maya bestowed upon the living entity by Lord Vishnu. Well, who is that Maya? It's Sita Devi. The satisfaction of one's senses and desires means enjoying Maya, not the goddess of fortune. Okay. Anyway, we should always surrender to Krishna, not to anybody else. We should always protect Sita Devi, not want to control her for our own wealth, family, and all that stuff. Okay, text 29. Oh, greatly fortunate one. It appears that you are none of the women I have mentioned, because I see that your feet are touching the ground. But if you are some woman of this planet, you can, like the goddess of fortune, who accompanied by Lord Vishnu, increases the beauty of the Vaikuntha planets, also increase the beauty of this city by associating with me. You should understand that I am a great hero and a very powerful king on this planet. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. There is a difference between demoniac mentality and devotional mentality. See, this is the main point. Devotees know perfectly well that the goddess of fortune, who is the constant companion of Vishnu or Narayana, cannot be enjoyed by a living entity. That's the main statement. This higher sense of understanding is called Krishna consciousness. Nonetheless, everyone wants to become happy by imitating the prosperity of Narayana. In this verse, Puranjana states that the girl appears to be an ordinary woman. However, since he is attracted to her, he requests that she become as happy as the goddess of fortune by associating with him. Thus, he introduces himself as a great king with great influence so that she might accept him as her husband and be as happy as the goddess of fortune. To desire to enjoy this material world as a subordinate of the Supreme Personality Godhead is godly. The demons, however, want to enjoy this material world without considering the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is the difference between a demon and a demigod. Okay, there you are. And they want to enjoy Sita Devi without worshiping her husband. And that, of course, will lead to a disaster. And Sita Devi will not be very pleased either. She wants to be with her husband. She doesn't want to be with these other people. So that's why it says here, uh, to desire to enjoy this material world as a subordinate of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is godly. The demons, however, want to enjoy this material world without considering the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is the difference between a demon and a demigod. Yeah, it's just like, let's say, a husband and wife go to some kind of a program. And in that program, the host or other people just talk to the wife and ignore the husband. Well, obviously, the husband is not going to be very happy, and he won't go back to such association because the people ignored him and just were interested in his wife. And even the wife will not be happy because it's not natural, that it's not normal that she should be uh, basically harassed by people and her husband is ignored. So this is why it says the demons, however, want to enjoy this material world without considering the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is the difference between a demon and a demigod. Yeah, they just want Sita Devi without uh, Lord Vishnu. The word bhuvi spurik mentioned in this verse is very significant. When the demigods sometimes come to this planet, they do not touch the ground. Puranjana could understand that this girl did not belong to the transcendental world or the higher planetary system because her feet were touching the ground. Since every woman in this world wants her husband to be very influential, rich, and powerful, Puranjana, to seduce the girl, introduced himself as such a personality. In the material world, whether one be a man or woman, one wants to enjoy. A man wants to enjoy a beautiful woman, and a woman wants to enjoy a powerful, opulent man. Every living entity who possesses such material desires is called Purusha, an enjoyer. Superficially, it appears that the woman is the enjoyed and the man is the enjoyer. But internally, everyone is an enjoyer. Consequently, everything in this material world is called Maya. There it is. The woman is in Maya and the man is in Maya, both. The woman wants to enjoy just as much as the man does. And enjoy what? Enjoy sense gratification. So it's not that the husband can enjoy sense gratification and the wife cannot enjoy sense gratification. The real position is that both the wife and the husband surrender to Krishna and engage in the devotional service of the Lord. But what you're seeing here is that's why it says superficially it appears that the woman is the enjoyed and the man is the enjoyer. But internally, everyone is an enjoyer. Consequently, everything in this material world is called Maya. Yeah, exactly right. So, every living entity who possesses such material desires is called Purusha, an enjoyer. So, today, women want to be enjoyers and men want to be enjoyers. Whereas traditionally, it was the man wants to be an enjoyer and the woman wants to give pleasure to the man. But uh, it appears superficially, it appears that the woman is the enjoyed and the man is the enjoyer. But internally, everyone is an enjoyer. Consequently, everything in this material world is called Maya. Okay, so that is our takeaway. The women want to be enjoyers, men want to be enjoyers, and everyone is ignoring that Krishna is the supreme enjoyer. And they are ignoring that. And because of that, they get zapped by Maya Devi. Text number 30. Certainly, your glancing upon me today has very much agitated my mind. Your smile, which is full of shyness, but at the same time lusty, is agitating the most powerful Cupid within me. Therefore, O most beautiful, I ask you to be merciful upon me. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Everyone has lusty desires within. And as soon as one is agitated by the movement of a beautiful woman's eyebrows, the Cupid within immediately throws his arrow at the heart. Thus, one is quickly conquered. by the eyebrows of a beautiful woman. When one is agitated by lusty desires, his senses are attracted by all kinds of vishaya, enjoyable things like sound, touch, form, smell, and taste. These attractive sense objects oblige one to come under the control of a woman. In this way, the conditioned life of a living entity begins. Conditional life means being under the control of a woman. And certainly, the living entity is always at the mercy of a woman or a man. Thus, living entities live in bondage to one another, and thus they continue this conditional material life illusioned by Maya. Well, the Muslims, they try and uh, avoid this by forcing their wife or wives to be shrouded completely, especially when they go outside the house. They have to be completely covered. The only thing you can see is their eyes, nothing else. But that doesn't really solve the problem uh, because the in Islam you can have at least four wives, and if you're very very rich, you can have even more wives. So that doesn't stop the attraction that a man has for a woman, and uh, it just increases one's false ego. Ultimately, we should not be attracted by the beautiful, let's say, beautiful aspects of a woman because those aspects are skin deep, meaning uh, actually everyone, whether it's a man or woman, is full of blood, urine, stool, etc. So whatever seems to be attractive is actually only skin deep. So that is not real attractiveness. Real attractiveness is one who becomes a genuine devotee and surrenders to Krishna and engages in devotional service and is not lusty or greedy or in any way a person who wants to be the controller and the enjoyer. That's why here it says every living entity who possesses such material desires is called Purusha, an enjoyer. Superficially, it appears that the woman is the enjoyed and the man is the enjoyer. But internally, everyone is an enjoyer. Consequently, everything in this material world is called Maya. And there it is. Uh, so, what is the solution here? Well, it's explained. It says uh, in the purport to text 30, everyone has lusty desires within, and as soon as one is agitated by the movement of a beautiful woman's eyebrows, the Cupid within immediately throws his arrows at the heart. Thus, one is quickly conquered by the eyebrows of a beautiful woman. When one is agitated by lusty desires, his senses are attracted by all kinds of vishaya, enjoyable things like sound, touch, form, smell, and taste. These attractive sense objects oblige one to come under the control of a woman. In this way, the conditional life of a living entity begins. Conditional life means being under the control of a woman, and certainly the living entity is always at the mercy of a woman or a man. Yeah, because The man is attracted by the beauty of a woman. The woman is attracted by the qualities of a man. Thus, living entities live in bondage to one another, and thus they continue this conditional material life illusion by Maya. That is why we worship deities, and we worship deities of Radha and Krishna. Now we are not lusting after Radharani, or a woman is full of lust for Krishna. We worship Radha and Krishna as the perfect transcendental couple, and we purify our senses by engaging in their service. That's the difference between the sense gratifiers and the devotees. Instead of being attracted by the beauty of a mundane woman, one is attracted by the beauty of Radha and Krishna. And that gives greater satisfaction than being attracted by the beauty of mundane women or men. So when the women are attracted by Radha and Krishna, or men are attracted by Radha and Krishna, they become devotees. On the other hand, if the woman is attracted by a man, or a man is attracted by a woman, they become sense gratifiers. That's why we worship Radha and Krishna, or Sita and Rama, in our temples, or Lakshmi and Narayana. When one is agitated by lusty desires, his senses are attracted by all kinds of vishaya, enjoyable things like sound, touch, form, smell, and taste. These attractive sense objects oblige one to come under the control of a woman. In this way, the conditional life of a living entity begins. Well, a woman can become attracted by a man and be controlled by the man, or the man can be attracted by the woman and be controlled by the woman. The whole point is that when one is agitated by lusty desires, his or her senses are attracted by all kinds of vishaya, enjoyable things like sound, touch, form, smell, and taste. These attractive sense objects oblige one to come under the control of a woman, or the woman comes under the control of a man. In this way, the conditional life of a living entity begins. Well, what's the solution to this? That's why we have deity worship. That's why we chant Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, to not be attracted by the false, let's say, attraction of a woman or a man, but to be attracted by the beautiful deities. That's why we dress the deities every day in beautiful garments and chant for the deities and feed the deities, or make offerings to the deities. When we transfer our attraction from mundane people to the to Radha and Krishna, we become free from lust, anger, greed, etc. But as long as we ignore the beauty of Radha and Krishna and we engage in mundane activities, we become vishayis, sense gratifiers, and we want to be the enjoyer. And that's why it says superficially it appears that the woman is the enjoyed and the man is the enjoyer. But internally, everyone is an enjoyer. Consequently, everything in this material world is called Maya. So the woman is in Maya, the man is in Maya. Why? Because they avoid surrendering to Radha and Krishna. But when one surrenders to Radha and Krishna under the tutelage of a bona fide spiritual master, then their attraction, they lose their attraction for mundane sense gratification, and they engage in offering pleasure to the deity of Radha and Krishna. So, in one sense, when they are Vishayis or sense gratification, as sense gratifiers, they're only concerned about their own sense gratification. But when they become devotees, they are engaged in pleasing the senses of Radha and Krishna, or the deities. Therefore, there are 6 offerings a day of nice prasada and different and bathing, changing their clothes twice a day, and in that way, the attraction of serving the deity completely circumvents or makes what you would call insignificant the attraction of engaging in physical sense gratification. One is overwhelmed by pleasing Radha and Krishna and engaging in the service of the Lord. That's why we have pujaris. That's why we have all kinds of programs that keeps our mind and our senses focused on pleasing the Lord. Then we become free from Maya, the illusory energy that makes us think that we are the enjoyer and we are the main, and the main purpose in our life is to have sense gratification. On the other hand, when we become a real devotee, we control our senses and mind by keeping them engaged always in serving the deity of Radha and Krishna, and always understanding that we are the servants of the Lord, not the enjoyers of the Lord. Okay, so here, text 31. My dear girl, your face is so beautiful, with your nice eyebrows and eyes, and with your bluish hair scattered about. In addition, very sweet sounds are coming from your mouth. Nonetheless, you are so covered with shyness that you do not see me face to face. I therefore request you, my dear girl, to smile and kindly raise your head to see me. This is the speech, it says here, such a speech is typical of a living entity attracted by the opposite sex. This is called bewilderment, occasioned by becoming conditioned by material nature. When thus attracted by the beauty of the material energy, one becomes very eager to enjoy it. This is elaborately described in this instance of Puranjana's becoming attracted by a beautiful woman. In conditional life, the living entity is attracted by a face, eyebrows, eyes, voice, or anything. In short, everything becomes attractive. When a man or a woman is attracted by the opposite sex, it does not matter whether the opposite sex is beautiful or not. The lover sees everything beautiful in the face of the beloved and thus becomes attracted. This attraction causes the living entity to fall down in this material world. This is described in Bhagavad Gita. Ichadvesa samutena dvandva mohena bharata sarvabhutani samoham Sarge Yanti Parantapa. O Skyan of Bharata, meaning when it says Skyan, it means one who is in the tradition or the family of the Lord. O Skyan of Bharata, Arjuna. O conqueror of the foe. All living entities are born into delusion, overcome by the dualities of desire and hate. Yeah, when you can't get what you want, you start hating. And when your desires are frustrated, you become hateful. This condition of life is called avidya, meaning ignorance. Opposed to this avidya is real knowledge. Shri Ishapanishad distinguishes between vidya and avidya, knowledge and ignorance. By avidya, ignorance, one becomes conditioned. By vidya, knowledge, one becomes liberated. Puranjana admits herein that he is attracted by avidya. Now he wishes to see the complete feature of avidya, and so requests the girl to raise her head so that he can see her face to face. He thus wishes to see various features that make avidya attractive. Well, actually, there's nothing really attractive in the body of a person, especially a beautiful woman, because whatever seems to be beautiful is only skin deep, meaning not even a quarter of an inch, less than that. As soon as you put the scissors or a knife on the body of a woman and open up her chest, immediately all you see is blood, urine, stool, etc. So it's like having a very expensive, what you would call a very expensive bag, but fill it up with stool. So you walk around and say, and you're proud to have a nice bag, but actually it's full of stool. So it's not really nice. It only looks nice temporarily. So therefore, Ichadvesa samutena dvandva mohina bharata sarvabhutani samaham sargayanti parantapa. O Skyan or Bharata, Arjuna. O conqueror of the foe. All living entities are born in delusion, overcome by the dualities of desire and hate. Okay. This condition of life is called avidya, meaning lacking knowledge. Opposed to this avidya is real knowledge. Sri Upanishad distinguishes between vidya and avidya, knowledge and ignorance. By avidya, ignorance, one becomes conditioned, and by vidya, knowledge, one becomes liberated. Puranjana admits herein that he is attracted by avidya. Now he wishes to see the complete feature of avidya, and so requests the girl to raise her head so that he can see her face to face. He thus wishes to see the various features that make avidya attractive. Well, yeah, you have these places, these nightclubs where men go to see women and either completely naked or partially naked, dancing and so forth. And they call that entertainment, but actually it's called Maya. So one should not ever go to a place like that, like a nightclub where there are women walking around almost naked or naked and serving people liquor and wine and things like that. And men are enjoying themselves, thinking that this is real happiness, but actually they're going closer and closer to death by engaging with women that are more or less naked and drinking liquor and becoming intoxicated. So such places, yeah. And I had a friend of mine once, and he was a very, very, very nice gentleman. And I asked him once. I said, "Do you go to nightclubs?" And he said, "No, I never go to a nightclub." I said, "Why not?" I asked him, "Why not?" Because I said most Frenchmen like to go to nightclubs and see women and drink wine. He said, "I'm not an idiot." He said, "Only idiots do things like that." He was really very, very down to earth. Yeah, but what he said was right. Only an idiot would walk into a nightclub where there are naked women and all kinds of intoxicants and spend time there and smoking and drinking. It's such a waste of human endeavor. One should use that energy to serve Radha and Krishna, not to go and dissipate that energy by engaging in sense gratification. Okay, so text number 32. Narla Uvacha. Itam Puram Janam Nari Yacha Manam Adir Ravat Abhyanandata Tam Viram Asanti Viramohita. Narada continues, my dear king, when Puranjana became so attracted and impatient to touch the girl and enjoy her, the girl also became attracted by his words and accepted his request by smiling. By this time, she was certainly attracted by the king. By this incident, we can understand that when a man is aggressive and begins to woo a woman, the woman becomes attracted to the man. This process is described in the Bhagavatam 5.5.8 as Pumsa Striya Maituni Bhavam Etam. This attraction is enacted on the platform of sexual life. Thus, the sex impulse is the platform of material engagement. This conditional life, this conditional life, the platform of material sense enjoyment, is the cause of forgetfulness of spiritual life. In this way, a living entity's original Krishna consciousness becomes covered over or converted into material consciousness. Thus, one engages in the business of sense gratification. Well, there are, let's say, uh, uh, two types of achievements. One is becoming a devotee, and the other is becoming a vishayi, sense gratifier. Now, people think that becoming a good sense gratifier or a great sense gratifier is an accomplishment, but actually, it is bringing one closer to death. Whereas one who becomes a devotee, that's a real accomplishment because now you're coming closer and closer to Krishna. So, therefore, uh, the uh, the desire of Puranjana uh, to be who is becoming more and more attracted by this woman he becomes completely enamored, and he wants to see her face to face. He thus wishes to see the various features that make avidya, meaning ignorance, attractive. Her eyes, her eyebrows, her nose, her breasts, etc. That only makes one a victim of Maya and a fool who is completely being controlled by a woman. And that foolish man can go the rest of his life always being attracted by women. Even as he gets older and he cannot actually enjoy sense gratification, still mentally he enjoys sex gratification that he had many years before by thinking about it and meditating about it. That means his mind is completely corrupted and he can't get any satisfaction by being Krishna conscious. His only satisfaction is meditating on sense gratification that he had many years before. Now he's an older man and he cannot enjoy the same way when he was a young man. But he's getting his enjoyment by meditating on his so-called activities when he was 20, 30 years old. So you see how people are living in, or men can be so attracted by a woman that even though the woman is already dead and that he's very old, but still he's meditating on that woman when she was a young girl, a younger woman, and he was enjoying her. That's how dangerous the what you would call the false affection of sense gratification. Even if you're too old, even if you're sick, even if you're handicapped in your old age, still people will have uh, meditation on sense gratification they had many, many years before. They're still thinking about it. It's still in their mind. They can't get it out of their mind. That's how dangerous material nature is, and especially by associating with a attractive woman and being satisfied by sense gratification. But actually, sense gratification is not satisfactory because it has to be sense gratification one after another. If one is not satisfied by just one time having sex with a woman, the man wants to continually have sex with the woman. Right? So that means that he's fallen into a deep, dark well of ignorance, and he can't get out. So, and then even if he cannot have sex because he's old and sick, he's meditating about it right up to the moment of death. This is dangerous life. And it's sad that many, many people are in that condition. Okay, so we are at the end of the seance today, but are there any questions? This is a major issue. The attraction between man and woman. What's the solution? Well, the solution is that a man gets married to a woman, and both the man and woman worship Radha and Krishna for the rest of their lives. That's the solution. But if the man gets married and the wife gets married and they're only engaged in sense gratification, being attracted to each other and not attracted at all to Krishna, then that is a death desire. One will die in ignorance and keep taking birth and death over and over again. However, when someone becomes sober, marriage becomes a sacred connection by which the husband and wife dedicate their life to Krishna and serving the Lord and the spiritual master. That is different. That is now a spiritual life. Even though one is married, one has a wife, or the wife has a husband, but the husband and wife together are always engaged in the service of Radha and Krishna. That means that they have become educated properly and are using their time and energy correctly so that they will be elevated to eternal life in the spiritual world. And in the spiritual world, there are many couples, men and women, men or married couples who spent their life engaging in devotional service and at the moment of death, remembering Krishna and going back to Godhead together. Okay. So, are there any questions anyone would like to ask? Any questions or comments?
So we should see the attraction to the opposite sex purely as an attraction by Maya. Basically, trapped by Maya.
Yeah, of course. But also, a chaste woman is also attractive by her modesty and the fact that she is completely dedicated to her husband. That's also attractive. Why? Because there's purity there. Or a mother who's completely dedicated to protecting and educating her children. That's also pure in a sense, because there's sacrifice for raising the children properly. On the other hand, if we see only with the desire to exploit someone, that's completely Maya. And it's dangerous because Maya is not merciful with such people. She will give them temporary success and eternal suffering. And that's what happens. At a certain point, they are engaged in sense gratification and they think that they can get away with it and without any consequences. But then the consequences begin, and then they realize that they made serious mistakes. But they're so, let's say, under the control of Maya that they're just suffering. They don't see any way to get out of that suffering. So there are examples. For example, what's his name? Well, there are many examples of famous men who enjoy having a lot of sex with different women. And then they become very, very neglected. Like, for example, I have a friend of mine, and he was cheating on his wife. So then obviously his wife found out. So I asked him, I said, why did you do that? You have such a nice wife. She's completely dedicated as a mother and a wife. why would you go out with prostitutes and ignore your wife? And he said, I thought I could get away with it. No one can get away with anything. And it only leads one to suffer. And actually, that's what happened to my friend. He's suffering very much. Although he has such a nice wife who won't, they don't live together anymore. So you see, one can destroy themselves by wanting to uh, take advantage of illicit sex and gambling and meat eating and intoxication. They will destroy themselves by such gross activities. So we should never associate with such people or come in contact with such people. We should avoid them. People who are vishayis, sense gratifiers, meat eating, gambling, illicit sex, intoxication, money, wealth, lust, anger, greed, all these things are demoniac and should be avoided. Okay, so are there any questions or comments? Okay, now you might ask the question. It's talking about the characteristics of King Puranjan, and it's all about his attraction to a woman. And why is the Srimad Bhagavatam spending so much time about Puranjan and his attraction to women and so forth? Well, because this is the real problem of life, our attraction to the opposite sex for sense gratification. This is what keeps people in the material world, birth after birth. So unless we can overcome that false attraction, we will stay in the material world birth after birth, always being a victim of sense gratification. That's why so many pages, so many cantos are concerned with this question of man-woman relationship. It is the most important, let's say, issue that has to be understood properly. That's why there's so much information about the man-woman relationship. Okay, thank you very much, my dear devotees. Please have a good day. Chant Hare Krishna and be happy. If there are no more questions, we will adjourn this morning lecture and wait till tonight to continue.
Hare Krishna, Harivilas Maharaj. I have a question.
Okay, go ahead, Mataji.
Yes, Maharaj. I see a lot of this attraction where people fall down has a lot to do with social media and television and movies, where they see over and over. They stress on the attraction between a man and woman, even outside marriage or or whatever. Do you think that has a lot, or is it just has always been there?
Oh, it's always been there and it always will be there. As
Yeah.
long as people are not Krishna conscious, they will be attracted by mundane so-called beauty and sex. The one thing that can destroy Krishna consciousness almost immediately is engaging in illicit sex. And look at all the people that are engaged in illicit sex. So if one can learn to control the sex desire and sublimate that energy in meditating on the relationship of Radha and Krishna, they become genuine devotees and they're not disturbed anymore by sex desire. But if one cannot do that, then there always will have this desire to enjoy sex, and it will keep them from making any tangible spiritual advancement. It doesn't matter whether it's a man or a woman. So, if we become enamored by the relationship of Radha and Krishna and meditate on that relationship, we become purified. If we meditate on the relationship of a mundane man and a mundane woman, we become contaminated. So, by the worship of Radha and Krishna, we become purified. And by the thoughts of mundane sense gratifiers, we become contaminated. So when you go to the movie, or you go to the nightclub, or you go down to the beach and see people almost completely naked, and things like that, you're in danger. That's dangerous because it can affect your thoughts and what's you're attracted to. So therefore, every day we chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna,
Hare,
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Ram, Hare
Ram, Hare
Ram,
Ram,
Rama,
Ram,
Hare.
Hare Hare.
Because that means we're associating with Radha and Krishna by chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. That's what we should, and we're meditating on it. That is what is going to save us from becoming fools and stuck in ignorance. This Hare Krishna Maha Mantra is the great blessing of this age, of this time, where simply by chanting Hare Krishna, we come directly in contact with Radha and Krishna, and we become purified. So instead of going to the nightclub and looking at naked women, we go to the temple and meditate on the beauty of Radha and Krishna and chant Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, and think and associate directly with Krishna by this sacred mantra. Man means the mind, and tra means the meditation. So we meditate on Radha and Krishna by chanting Hare Krishna mantra. That should be our main activity in life. That's why Prabhupada has recommended to us, if we're initiated, especially, we have to chant 16 good rounds every day. That way we're associating with Radha and Krishna and with the spiritual master who is directing us how to worship Radha and Krishna correctly so that we do not commit any offenses. Okay, thank you very much, my dear devotees. Please chant Hare Krishna Maha Mantra today and be happy. Haribol.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.